Hey everybody, it's Raging Jeep again. Part 2 of the TJ Fox Performance Shock upgrade. Well, not really upgrade, reconfiguration. In the last video we disassembled everything. In this video we're going to reassemble, refill with fluids, and recharge. And instead of using the 4-inch braided hose that we, or 3-inch, maybe it's 4, I don't know how long it is. We're going to replace it with this 10-inch hose. So, I'm sure there's more than one way to do this, but again, this is the way that I found that's most successful. So, we're going to take our reservoir. First step, we're going to take the separator between the charged, that sits between the charged inert gas and the oil, and we are going to reinsert that. The 2.0 series is on the Schrader valve side, so I'm going to put it this end up. There's two sides, very distinctive, so the one with the giant bowl, we're going to put that back in. I've already pre-lubed that O-ring, so don't hate. And we're just going to shove it down about that far. And the reason we're going to do that is we're going to fill this reservoir all the way up with oil, and then we're going to put the top back on it, and then we're going to press that separator to force oil through this line and into the bottom of the main housing, and that's how we're going to clear all the air out of the reservoir. So let's get our 5-weight Fox Blue shock oil that I got from Cartech. Go ahead and make sure everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and pour some of that in. I like to let that sit for a minute. So while that sits, we'll clean up a couple of the parts and move on to the next step. Alright, so we're going to take the top of the reservoir, which has the threaded hole for the hose. We're going to very carefully and slowly re-push that in just enough so that it's down to the top of the oil, like that. Then we are going to take one of the snap rings. We're going to reinsert said snap ring. If you do not reinsert said snap ring, when you go to force the oil through, it will pop right off and you'll get oil all over you. So we're going to thread this on. We're going to use our 9/16" wrench to give it a little quick jerk. It'll be fine. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to attach the other end of this reservoir to the top of the shock, main shock body, thusly. Take our 9/16" wrench, we're going to give that a little snug like that. Now we're going to move over to the vise. So now we're at the vise. What I've done is wrapped my main body to protect it from getting scratched. Lightly clamped it into the vise so as not to damage the cylinder. And I have the reservoir here, and you won't be able to see this, but I'm sure you can imagine. I give it a little push, and until I see oil coming up like that. There we go. Now I'm going to, at the same time, pull top of the reservoir body up so that it is flush. Going to keep pressing that divider down. Not sure if it's coming through on the audio, but you will hear some bubbling. I'm going to press this down not quite halfway. It's like 5/8 left. So you want enough room to charge, but not so much room that with the charge you run the risk of not having the oil in the reservoir. So at this point you should see a reasonable amount of oil in the bottom of your main body. Awesome. We'll check this. That looks still good. We're going to grab our shock oil and we're going to fill this up. Now, as we fill that up, let's pull our piston out. So you notice I've got two pieces here. I've got this bottom piece and this upper piece. This upper piece forms a seal. So what we want to do is we want to get enough oil in here so that there's no air, but not so much oil that we can't reassemble. So if the top of the shock piston is going to come up to where that snap ring is, you're going to want oil about that far down. So I just give it a little eyeball and I fill it up to about right there. That should be good. And then let's just double check on this side. I think I need a little bit more. Just a hair. Worst case scenario, your plunger in the reservoir is going to go back, your separator is going to go back a little bit. So we're going to shove this in, very carefully work that in. You know you're successful if you can get that down without too much trouble, low enough to get the snap ring in, which we have. Just going to put that snap ring back in, then we're going to pull it back out like that. Alright, now while we've got it in the vise, grab the main body, give it a couple love taps. Alright, that's down. Main body reassembled. Now we're going to go back to the bench. Alright, so now we're back on the bench. Take our protective covering off. Everything except the final piece, which is reinserting the bottom half of the reservoir. Pre-lube those O-rings. Shove that in there. Push it down far enough so that you can get the snap ring back in. It is an airtight seal, so you do have to compress and then slide the snap ring in like so. And I lost it. So we'll compress again. Slide this snap ring in like so. And I got it that time. And now that's back on. So now, how do we charge this bad boy? Let's figure that out, shall we? Alright, so charging up our shock. I had to get a couple extra things. Ideal situation, take it down to some place, have them hit it with nitrogen. 155 psi is where I found these started. My solution, went online and I bought a nitrogen gauge for my tank. Nitrogen, argon, both inert gases, gauge works fine. So tanks are typically around 2000 psi. What this does is allows you to step that down between 100 and 600 psi. So this is perfect. All right. So the first thing I did was I got this. I took off the regulator from the welder, and we just put this little bad boy on here and tighten down. Not too hard. Remember, brass is soft. The hardest part was trying to figure out how to take the output fitting and put it into something that was usable. So I got a 300 psi hose from Tecton. I had a couple of adapters already, so I stepped that hose down to a size so I could put a air hose fitting on one end and a coupler on the other end. So now, depending upon what regulator you buy, that is going to drive what parts you need. So I will leave you to figure that out on your own. I will say this was a trial and error that took the better part of 2 weeks because I ordered a couple adapters that I thought were right. Turns out they weren't the right size, etc. But I got something that works pretty well now. And then last but not least, my favorite digital gauge from ARB. Yes, this is rated for 75 psi. Yes, it will handle up to 200. Do I recommend doing it on the regular? No. But we're going to hit this with 2 or 3 quick bursts. Seems to work great. And I like the digital readout. So, I'm going to open up the flow gas. It's sitting at 2000 psi. I'm going to charge up the line to 200, just a little bit less. I'm going to reduce the pressure because I'm getting a little bit of a leak. Don't want to blow through all my argon. Still leaking a little bit, but this will only take a second. So, I'm going to take and put the end of my ARB, after I turn it on, onto the end of the Schrader valve. It's going to read 0. I'm going to hit it a couple times. And I've got it up to 155, 160, which is perfect. No leak. Close off the argon. Close off the regulator. Done and done. So, last thing, put my protector cap back on. And there you have it. A completely disassembled, refilled, and reassembled Fox 2.0 shock with a 10-inch wire hose. Hope you have a good day. Stay safe out there. Hope to see you on the trail soon.